Good morning.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, John, how you doing?
Oh, we're here.
We're here.
More issues in my condo. I can't believe this thing. It's just one thing happening after another. But we're trying to persevere.
All right, just hang in there.
Yeah.
How you doing, lady?
Good morning, Charles. How are you today, sir?
I'm good. I got your painting. We're gonna do a little talking about that.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Did you get mine?
Yes, your digital piece.
Yes.
Yeah, that's in the mix today.
Okay.
Ilan, I don't think I got anything new from you or Betty.
Yeah, I was busy with other things, and I'm not going to be here this afternoon. I'm here in this meeting.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. You can't make it. But
what can you do?
Well, yes.
You got them doctors. You need to give them some money to work.
Well, yeah, they have to stay alive too.
Yeah.
Anyway, so looks like we've got about 12 people here. So we're gonna jump right into this. I've got some really interesting artists to show and share with you guys. Different painters from different parts of the world. Let's see, none of these are American, okay? And so the first guy I'm going to start off with is Japanese. And he does some pretty incredible work. Let's see, get that up. There we go. Put that right up there. Now, move you guys around a little bit. Yeah, put you up there at the top, I guess. Won't stay up there for some reason. Okay.
This is a painting or a photo?
This is a painting.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Now,
what's his name, please?
Okay. His name is Ukishima Hiroshi. Now, the thing is, yeah, foreign names. Wow. Okay. I try, but who knows? Anyway, if you want to look him up, you spell it Ikushima, and that's his first name.
Okay.
And then Hiroshi, Hiroshi. Haven't been able to find out a whole lot about him so far, but he seems to be kind of a fairly young artist. I think he's probably late 30s, early 40s, but he's got an incredible body of work. And, you know,
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at his technique, it's almost photoreal. Okay, it really is.
My eye goes straight to the flower. That is beautiful.
Right, but it's and the thing about him in looking at a large body of his work, I think he's really, really strongly influenced by a guy by the name of Vermeer. And when you look at his compositions and the way he handles the light, it's kind of interesting because just like Vermeer, the light is always coming in from the left, and the shadows are falling to the right. And that was one of the traits of Vermeer because of his studio. And you look at how he places his figures and the compositions, and they really are, some of them are highly reminiscent. I mean, it could be a Vermeer, other than, the women that he paints are, Japanese or Asian, okay? Here's another piece of his. And again, look at how he treats the light and how soft everything is. It's a very kind of soft feeling. About the only thing that's really crisp and hard is really right down here around these rings in her fingers, and this little bit of hair right in here has some fairly tight, crisp lines. Everything else is softened back quite a bit. Another example, okay? And again, you know, light coming in from the right, you know, shadows falling to the left. Another piece.
I have a question, Charles.
Sure.
Why would somebody want to paint so realistically that it looks like a photograph? I mean, it almost seems like a waste where it doesn't, it's like, it's not the interpretation of the artist as much as just a realistic representation.
Well, I think, you know, there's many different qualities to art. Okay. And one of them is sort of your emotional reaction to things. And in this particular case, when you look at this artist's work, you know, I think the response is it is so realistic that it really does like fool the eye, you know, into thinking that it could be something that is real. We're going to talk more about this with one of the other artists that I'm going to show you, who's a Spanish artist coming up. But I wanted to start with this guy because, you know, like this painting. And, you know, I mean, it's beautifully done,
It
you
is.
know, and it's so soft, and just the color and the contrast in it is really, really nice. You know, it's not a real challenging composition. But, you know, again, you know, it's just the technical aspect of it is handled so beautifully. So in that way, it's very much so like a Vermeer. And here's one of those that, I mean, that could be a Vermeer. I mean, it really could. You know, just the composition, how it's set up, the lighting, you know, the background, you know, the whole setting of where she is so much like a Vermeer painting. Now, the interesting thing is, you know, when you're looking at the sizes of these paintings, they're really not all that big. You know, they're kind of medium-sized paintings. So, you know, you kind of get an appreciation for just the patience and the technical skill that this guy takes in producing these. But now look at how much more crisp the edges are on these mechanical items in the corner of this box than they are on the figure. See? And really almost anywhere in the figure is somewhat softened. And again, so your eye really, you know, gravitates really right into this area being the focal point of the painting. So he's taking your eye off of that center point, you know, and moved you really in kind of an unusual direction, you know, moving to the left rather than to the right. So, really nice play of light, shadow, you know, transitions in the skin tones, the core shadows, the reflected light. Notice how under the arm here. See, it gets just a little bit lighter, but it's not as light as anything over here on the light side. So there's good separation of value, you know, in all of these figures, and his ability to turn form, you know, is really well practiced and studied. Again, you know, very much so an Asian sort of theme, but very much so could be a Vermeer. You know, you look at the finish of it, the composition of it, the lighting, you know, it's so reminiscent of a Vermeer painting. And then this is a still life that he did. And so there you go. So that's Ikushima. All right, and then we'll, I've lost something now.
That lemon is ready for eating.
Pardon?
Say that lemon is ready to eat.
Yeah.
You can just grab that and have lemonade or something.
Huh? Yeah, I mean, he really captures the feeling of the texture, the light, and the form really, really well. You know, excellent painter. So, all right, moving on, you know, past Ikushima here. Now I'm going to show you something, you know, radically different. Now, this is a Russian painter, and don't ask me to even attempt to try to pronounce his name, okay? I can't even, you know, phonetically begin to say what this guy's name was. Unfortunately, he's not with us anymore. Okay, you are, okay, you're a screen share, good, okay. So everybody can see the still life, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay.
Can you spell his name, please?
No, I can't, because it was all in Russian, okay?
Oh, okay.
And there was nothing even recognizable there as, you know, like, there were a few A's and things like that, but anyway, it was well beyond me. But I really liked his work, and really what I wanted to talk about, you know, with these, you know, they're borderline abstract. You know, they're very simplified compositions, you know, real strong shapes, very strong contrast, and in many ways, you know, very painterly, you know. But the key thing in what little reading I could do about him in very bad translations on Facebook was that he was mainly interested in color and color theory, and, you know, playing with color, you know, as a key element of his paintings. And really haven't been able to find a lot on him. I've probably got like 10 paintings of his to show you, but really nicely done. And, you know, again, you know, it goes from, yes, this is a still life, which is a, you know, representational painting, and yet, you know, very abstract at the same time, you know, very simplified in many ways. And most of his paintings, in fact, all of his paintings are in this kind of square format. You know, it's not vertical, you know, like a traditional, you know, golden mean ratio. It's always square. And, you know, just the aspect of it being square in many ways kind of begins to make it static. And yet, you know, he gets, you know, a very nice kind of flowing composition in all of these. But look at the use of the color, and even in the paint and how he laid it down. You know, these are very direct, you know, approaches to painting, and, you know, but beautiful color, very well thought out. Just really nice stuff. Now, he died in 1996. He was born in 1911. So he was around for a while.
Charles,
Yes.
hi. He reminds me of Cezanne, father of modern art.
Yeah. Yeah. His work is somewhat reminiscent of like Cezanne and also Matisse, you know, at different
Yes.
periods of time. You know, and particularly with the use of, I think more like Matisse when you start looking at his use of color.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, because he, a lot of his, he's always playing these really, really strong, intense colors against these very muted combinations. Yeah. So now that one could be either a Cezanne or a Matisse, very easily, just looking at the way the paint was laid down, the shapes, the forms in there, the lighting. And believe me, I wish I had some clue as to, how to spell his name. But just, since, since we're kind of working on a still life, that class challenge thing.
Yeah.
See, I mean, there would be a different way of approaching, doing that, that still life. So, hint, hint, if you want to try to paint something like that, you could try that. Yeah. So here's the last artist I'm going to introduce today, and I'm going to try to say his name. And he's from Spain. Again, fairly young artist, probably now, in his 40s. And it's Guanadi Ulibin. And yeah, anyway, that's my bad attempt at trying to, say his name. But I've got two different groups of photos of him. Now, again, he falls kind of into this imaginative realism school. And it's kind of incredible, really, when you start looking at some of the work that's coming out of Spain in particular. Somewhat in France, some in Italy, but mainly in Spain. They're doing some really interesting stuff these days. And particularly in this kind of realm of imaginative realism. And, you were talking about how the Japanese artists that we looked at earlier today, and how almost photographic his things are. Well, this guy is, I mean, it looks like a photograph. It really does. But it's not. If you look at the settings and everything else, these are almost science fiction-like. And they have a very different feel to them. So I'm just going to kind of click through these real quick. This in particular, I thought, out of everything I've seen, when I look at this, I kind of think about, if I had to paint that, I mean, that's an incredible amount of work. And this, by the way, is a very large piece of work. It's probably, a good 20 to 25 feet long, and about, 8 feet tall. So all of those figures are just about life size. Okay. Just incredible stuff. Again, really nice, rendering. Look at the texture, and difference, in the texture of the flesh tone, the pot, the hair. He handles all of these very well. Now, I went to a particular site, and some of these are a little bit fuzzy. The quality of the images on that site was really not all that good. But
All we're seeing, Charles, is the first one, the big landscape. We're not seeing
Pardon?
the individual. We're not seeing the individual. We're just seeing the big one.
this one right here.
Is that what you're showing? Are you showing the individual ones?
Well, I was. Maybe I was on the wrong thing.
Yeah, we didn't see. Oh, the
Okay.
same one.
Okay. All right.
There we go.
There we go. Okay. It helps me in the right place. Like I said, I had two of these. So, if you start, like I said, if you look at his stuff, it's almost science fiction like. So, definitely, he's kind of imagining, other times, other worlds, futuristic, we would think. But, incredibly, highly finished, highly detailed, very carefully painted. So, really highly skilled artist,
Imagination.
Pardon?
What an imagination.
Yeah. Yeah, particularly like some of the spacecraft and the machinery and stuff that he comes up with.
I need to hang out with that guy.
I was kind of thinking about you when I was looking at his work, because you kind of tend to go off that direction every once in a while. And actually,
I put the nudes with spaceships. I couldn't figure that one out.
Well,
It works.
yeah, I don't think it has to make any like real logical sense. Again, it's a piece of artwork. It definitely leaves you with this sort of almost like isolated, sort of, stranded, on a planet somewhere far, far away, type of feeling.
Planet imagination.
Yeah, but that's why they call it imaginative realism, right? Okay. So I've got a few more to show of his. And then we'll kind of open it up to everybody else.
That's good.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, some of his stuff is almost, and I don't know, maybe it's, contrasting some of his earlier work versus his more recent work. Some of his stuff is almost biblical, in nature. It kind of feels like something out of a biblical story. That's what I was saying earlier. Some of these pieces are a little bit fuzzy because of the website that I got them off of.
Mm-hmm.
That guy has a surfboard.
A surfboard? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, there's that large piece again. Now, this was a little bit sharper detail, I think, than I got on the other piece that I showed you. And again.
Can you send us his name?
Yeah. Gennady Ulubin. And if you want me to spell it, I can spell it, in English.
Okay, spell it.
Guennadi. That's his first name. And Ulubin, Ulibin. And again, he's from Spain. So you can Google him, you can look him up. He's out there on the internet. This was a piece that, again, it's kind of fuzzy, but, a really, really kind of compelling image. When you really start looking at what's going on there, you've got all these figures, and, they've got books, and things. It seems like they're sitting on a whole mountain of books, and then you've got the scales out there in the background. So, not quite sure what the message to that is, but interesting idea. There's
Final Judgment, the title.
something like that, possibly could be. There are those scales again.
There's the name too.
Mhm. Yeah. So there you go. That's what I've got for you today. Anybody got any thoughts about any of that?
The first artist's work was beautiful. That how real it looks. That's amazing. If someone has a gift like that, they can paint where it looks like a picture. He's truly a gifted artist.
Mhm.
Beautiful.
Well, yeah, they're very realistic. But again, I think the skill there is not just in capturing or convincing somebody that it's real, but it's controlling those hard and soft edges, controlling the value, turning the form on the figures. He was doing everything right with those. And so again, there's really a lot of really good art out there being made today. And it goes back to my I keep trying to unmute everybody. All participants are unmuted, but yet it shows a lot of people still locked up. But it goes back to that idea that really some of the very best art, it's probably ever been made, is being made right now.
Mhm.
You've got, when you look at how many artists there are all around the world working right now, and the types of things that are being produced, there's some incredible stuff, being done out there.
Of the two artists, I like the second one better because it's got some interesting subject matter. The first one, I said, just too photographic for me.
Okay. Yeah, and again, it's like everybody's taste is a little bit different.
Right.
And one of the wonderful things about being alive today here in the 21st century is that we have this ability to look at things from all around the world almost instantly. Once it goes out there and it's on the net, it's just a matter of, tracking it down and finding it. And there's so much out there, it's incredible. You can spend, days, weeks, months, years, just, looking and researching and looking at all this different art and trying to find out about some of the things that are going on out there. When you start talking about different regions of the world, such as Europe, for example, in America, we started this kind of slow move, back to realism. And that kind of really began in about the early 60s, but really kind of kicked in around the 70s. And, realism kind of came back to life again. It had been gone for almost 30 years in this country. And it was probably in the 70s or the 80s in Europe that, traditional approaches to painting and art started to swing back to the more traditional. And what they've done with it, within that period of time and where they've gone with it is pretty amazing. There's some incredible artists right now working in Europe, particularly, in the area of realism. And the same is true in Asia, Chinese artists, Japanese artists. It's really happening all over the world. So, I would encourage all of you, you all have access to the internet, go out there and find, things that, you find inspirational, that motivate you. And there's plenty of stuff out there to look at. And there's plenty of
Charles,
resources. Yes.
you know the picture you gave us for the challenge picture, and
Yeah.
someone on Monday, I think, sent in a picture where it kind of incorporate the flowers and the vase together. The one that you added color to.
Right. That's Betty Bates.
What kind of style would you say she was using, that he was using?
Well, she was taking that and, kind of creating more of an abstract design out of it.
Oh,
Rather
okay.
than trying to do a play on realism and trying to render it, as a flower. And it made some really nice movements and shapes and patterns. And again, that's something that you could take, and with the addition of, if you wanted to work in paint, you could do some interesting things with layering color and texture with something like that. And again, it's taking something, as just a starting point, and then beginning to create a piece of art from there, rather than just sit there and copy it. So I thought that was kind of a fun way of approaching it. And I know Betty's on here somewhere. I'd like to see her go, further with it and see what she could come up with, because I think she could come up with a really, interesting piece of artwork, or a whole series of pieces of artwork off of that. Once she got going and started playing with, color and texture. So anyhow, anybody got anything they want to add?
I do. Charles, did you send a sample of Betty's artwork out?
I showed it, but yeah, I've got it, and actually I'll show it in the afternoon.
Okay.
I'll have it in that mix. And that was what she had originally sent in, was just a drawing. And then I took it into Photoshop and I just played with it a little bit. Again, just to kind of give you an idea of what you could do with it. Okay?
Good. Okay.
So, there's endless possibilities, of what, different directions you could go. And the reason, hi, Linda, how you doing?
I'm back.
Okay. The reason I gave you that, that particular piece, in fact, I'll share the actual image. Okay. Can't do that right now because I don't have it open. So I'll open it. And then I'll share it.
Okay.
Gotta get used to the Zoom stuff here. Okay, so that's the image, that I sent out.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you could do a beautiful painting of that just the way it is. You could take it and recompose it. You don't have to do the whole thing. You could just drop in on a flower or two. Again, you could do something more like Betty, where she used a lot of the angles and the curves and things, and came up with, sort of a original design. And where she's going to go from there, I don't know. So, but hopefully we can get her to talk about it this afternoon a little bit. All right. We got about 5 more minutes here. Anybody got anything they want to share? Anything going on in the world out there with anybody?
Charles.
Yes.
Hi, it's Fran. Am I too late to send in my drawing? I did a drawing of it.
No.
And
No.
it's Charles.Scowens at Fulton County
GA, well, yeah.
GA.gov.
Yeah. So it's Charles.Scoggins.
Scoggins, sorry.
Yeah, SCOGINS.
All right, at Fulton County GA.gov.
There you go. You got it, Fran.
Thanks you, Charles.
Yeah, and we'll be back here at about 2 o'clock. And again, I've got I have a fair amount of work to show that you guys have sent in. And so, Linda, I've got 3 of your paintings that I didn't really get to talk about much. I got something from Surin. Eloise, I think I've got a piece from you. Lady, I've got the poor painting that you sent in that I really want to talk about. Because I thought your description of it and all, really added a lot to what you did. So, like I said, we'll be back here this afternoon and we can talk about that.
I have a question.
Pardon?
Excuse me, Charles. I have a question about the vase and flowers. Is it supposed to be a drawing or a painting?
Whatever you want.
Okay.
It can be a painting, it could be a drawing, it could be a poem, it could be a piece of music. Again, I didn't say you had to do any particular thing with it. It was kind of like a source of inspiration. Like we had done the earlier assignments where we did like the girl with the pearl earring, right? And some people treated it almost sculpturally like Elsie did. Some people did drawings, some people did painting. Again, it's up to you. It's whatever you have available to you. It's your interpretation. And again, it's just a starting point. It doesn't have anything to do with, I want to copy this. So it's pretty wide open. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Can we see the copy of your finished girl that was behind you on the couch?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can send that to yeah. If you want it, sure. I'll be happy to send it out.
I'd like to see it.
Okay. Did you see the final?
Did I see what?
Did you see the final piece?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll put it in the mix this afternoon so you can see kind of where it went.
All right.
On Facebook, don't you?
I do. Yeah, I've got it on my Facebook page. But again, I can pull it and put it, in the mix of things this afternoon. So.
All right. Thank you.
What about the picture behind you of the trees?
Oh, those. Yeah. Yeah. Those have turned into, let's see, what do I want to say about those? Yeah, I'm going to talk about those this afternoon too, because what I started off doing, the one painting that I set out there and I actually did almost alla prima and got a beginning on, I got to a point with it and I said, I really need to kind of find out more about what I'm painting. So I started another painting. And in fact, let me grab it. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, that's kind of a study. And I'm kind of happy with it right now. It's got a long way to go, but we're working on it.
That's good.
So I've been pushing a little paint, in the last week or two as well. And, I'll catch you guys up on that this afternoon. So let's see. Okay. Google, you died 1996. Okay. Yeah, I'll see if I can find, more out about him. Okay. I've been looking. Because
I just Googled Russian painter who died 1996 and he came up.
Oh, okay, good. Any English translation into what his name is?
There was a big long name in it, but it was English alphabet, yes.
I know, it's like, okay, how would I even begin to try to say that? Yeah. But, all right, well, I'm glad you found him. And if you want, go ahead and send me a link to what you found on Google. Was it on Facebook?
I don't have Facebook. I just did